I've seen the fire in our nation's eyes when anger prowls for prey. I've heard good people draw their lines and call it holy rage. But the cross was never raised to bless the stones we throw. And if mercy leaves the house, there's something wrong down in the soul. Words ain't bullets, but they can hit the same. And once a heart turns cold enough, it forgets what grace is for. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No, no room for hate. No room for hate. You can wave a flag above it, you can quote a verse or two, you can dress it up like justice, till it almost sounds like truth. But outrage ain't righteous when it changes with the side. And you can't love your neighbor, treating them like they're downrange. We're all image bearers, breath of God and dust. And you don't heal a broken land by teaching it not to trust. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. Drag it to the cross, lay it in the ground. Let the blood of Jesus turn the whole thing around. Truth can still be spoken, courage still can stand, but rage don't get to rule the soul of a faithful man. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place.
Let revival start where the anger breaks.
Where the anger breaks.
Let healing rise up where the hurt gives way.
No room for hate.
No room for hate.
No, no room for hate.
No room for hate.
Not in Jesus' name. Oh, not in this house. Not in this heart. Not in His name. No room for hate.
Remember when entertainment was actually entertaining? When comedy was about being funny, movies were about telling great stories, and you didn't need a political lecture every time you hit play. Great entertainment still exists, it's just getting harder to find. Even the biggest streaming platforms leave audiences disappointed. That's why there's Studio TST, pure entertainment, real comedy, independent films, bold creators, movies, comedy, music, and more, and the home of fearless sketch comedy. That show tonight. Entertainment the way you want it. Funny, creative, unapologetic, and agenda-free. Studio TST. The future of entertainment starts here. Join Studio TST today for just $5 a month.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show, where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mike in his hand.
And oh my God, it's Monday again, but we're here. We're live. Yes, there have been gremlins. Things on X are weird. One of the YouTube accounts is still acting up, and my virtual assistant has been being a dick all morning. But we're here anyway. Welcome into the program. It's Monday, and it feels like one. However, it's also primary eve here in Oklahoma, so we're going to be spending a lot of our show today talking about that. So some of you are going to be like, this is going to be boring. Yeah, well, you know, it happens. It happens. I keep telling you guys, local politics is where things should matter most anyway. We've actually got a couple of bright spots. I'm a little confused on Trump's endorsement here in Oklahoma. Also, a lot of my friends and people that I talk to on a regular basis have been really confused, and a lot of them are throwing their hands up in the air because all the attack ads make every single candidate running for governor seem shady AF. And after what we've run into with Kevin Stitt a handful of times, everybody's like, I don't even know anymore, man. I just don't know. Game over, man. Game over. So, yeah, we're going to break a lot of that down today. And, of course, we do have some national stuff to get to. I'm waiting to see if and when the president may happen to go live because he is or has, as far as I know, already touched down at the G7. So we may cover some of that today if it breaks. We've got an update on the Iran deal. I don't know how I feel about it yet, so I'm going to keep most of my powder dry on that one until Friday when we actually see the memorandum itself and see if they actually ink it. But I've seen some positive stuff, and I've seen some negative stuff, and I don't really know how I feel about these supposed assets possibly being unfrozen. So we'll definitely get into that one probably a little bit more on Friday, but we do have a sprinkling of that in here as well. Again, welcome into the program. This is the Rick Robinson Show, and it's Monday. So since everything's broken, wherever you happen to be watching us from, whether it's on my personal YouTube account, the Rumble account, either one of the Facebook accounts, or the 3X accounts that we're currently streaming on, make sure you're pushing out the feed because all the updates seem to be broken pretty much everywhere right now. It feels like something's under cyber attack and nobody's telling us. That's how my morning's been. Anyway, so again, today is primary eve in Oklahoma. So my first question is, do Ballot Faries like cookies? I'm just curious. Anyway, we don't really have as much of that here in Oklahoma that I know of, but it seemed like a funny way to open the show, which means tomorrow you guys get to go vote. The state stops being a spreadsheet, a poll, a campaign ad, and a rumor mill and becomes something much more dangerous to consultants. Voting class shows up tomorrow. So turnout's going to matter most. We've got some early turnout numbers we'll be getting into. Tomorrow, Oklahomans are not just picking names on a ballot. They are choosing how much change they want, how much noise they can trust, and how much government they are willing to pay for. We have a governor's race that has turned into a fight over Trump, taxes, law and order, foreign land, foreign investment, and whether the biggest industrial project in state history is a promise or a problem. We have Senate primaries where one side looks like a front runner trying to avoid a runoff, and the other side looks like a biography test for voters who may still be trying to figure out who is who. We also have State Question 832, the minimum wage question, which is not just a minimum wage question. It is a wage floor question, an inflation indexing question, and a local control question, all packed into one ballot line. We have judicial races, local races, early vote data, attack ads, and a state revenue report that complicates the favorite phrase of every budget argument. We don't have the money. Because guess what? Jerry Maguire's showing us the money, and I have that today too. And because the rest of the world has apparently not agreed to take the day off so Oklahoma can have a clean primary show, we also have the national pile. Trump may have found an off-ramp with Iran. Yeah, we'll get into more of that on Friday. Strait of Hormuz is apparently reopening. Oil markets are reacting, and the G7 is starting the day in France, with the entire global order looking like somebody shook the table. Mitch McConnell is back in the hospital again, surprising absolutely no one. Hakeem Jeffries is trying to talk about groceries while leaving impeachment in his back pocket. And America 250 opened with one side watching UFC on the White House lawn while the other side staged a counter concert in New York. So yes, it is Monday, and it's also one of those days. Here's the promise for today. We're going to keep Oklahoma in the driver's seat. National stories matter because they shape the mood, the economy, the energy market, and the noise level. But tomorrow, the ballot is here, the decisions are here, and the consequences are here. So again, it's primary eve in Oklahoma, and let's get into it. So before we get into the horse race, let's do the voter practicals, because the most important piece of the election coverage is still making sure people know how to vote. In-person early voting ended Saturday. So if you were waiting for one more early vote window today, that window is closed. Tomorrow is election day. Polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time. If you're in line by 7 p.m., stay in line. The early vote data we have is useful, but it's not a crystal ball. Statewide in-person early voting came in at around 48,408 ballots. Republican voters made up 32,225 of those, which I have to say is interesting because it seems like here in Oklahoma, at least Republicans are starting to figure out early voting as an actual useful tool. Democrats were totaling 13,620. Independents were 2,463. Libertarians were 100. Mail absentee return added another 18,779 statewide. 10,088 Republicans, 7,251 Democrat, and 1,402 Independent, as well as 38 Libertarian. So you put those together, you get an early or a returned absentee ballot total of 67,187 early votes. Election day, those were turned in before Election day. Again, those totals, 42,313 for Republican. In the runoff section, not really a runoff yet, but primary. 20,871 Democrat, 3,865 Independent, 138 Libertarian. Now, the important caveat, those are party affiliation participation numbers. These are not candidate results. Nobody should go on the air and say, this means candidate A is winning, because it doesn't. It tells us who has already shown up by method and party. It does not tell us how they voted. But it does tell us something about intensity and organization. The Republican side has the bigger competitive statewide drama, especially governor and Senate. The Democratic side has races too, but with less public polling and less televised oxygen that shows up in the early participation pattern. Now, the good news is, for those of you that will be waiting in line tomorrow, weather does not look like a major excuse, but it will be warm because it's Oklahoma. Oklahoma City is looking at mostly sunny skies and a high around 91. Tulsa in the same neighborhood around 90. So the practical advice is boring but important. Vote early in the day if heat is an issue. Check your polling place before you go. Bring your ID and do not let the campaign ad circus convince you your vote does not matter. Tomorrow is where the ads stop talking and the voters start. So that's the practical election frame. Early voting is done. Election day is tomorrow, and the early numbers show intensity, not results. So we're going to take the first break of the show and get it out of the way because we've got a lot of stuff to talk about today. So when we get back, we're going to go national for a minute because Iran and the Strait of Hormuz are not just foreign policy. They are fuel prices, shipping inflation, and Oklahoma pocketbooks. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break just so I can double check a couple things. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Comes in, somebody answers. Day or night, they're already moving. Calm voices, fast hands, doing the work while the rest of the world freezes. From a headset to a truck, from a badge to a door, they don't stop to count the cost. They step in when it matters. It's not about being seen, it's about being there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line through the fire, the flood. When everything falls, they don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. Before the sirens fade, before the scene is clear, someone's already making sense of the moment. Keeping people alive, keeping things from getting worse. Some run toward danger, some stay behind and hold it together. Different roles, same weight, same promise to show up. When everything's on the line, they're already there. They're holding the line when the lines go dead, standing their ground when the world goes dark. They're the calm in the chaos, holding When everything's breaking, they hold their ground. They're the calm in the chaos, holding the line. So we raise our voices for the ones who stand. Every voice, every badge, every helping hand. They don't ask why, they just answer the call. Always standing in the gap for us all. Always standing in the gap for us all. For those who run it, for those who hold steady, for those who stand in the gap.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Denny in the chat. I'm so worried about tomorrow. I don't want another Keating in the governor's office or the governor's mansion. Either one. I have to admit, I can't vote in the Republican primary because I've never changed my registration back from Libertarian because I feel like it gives me more clout to be able to punch both sides in the nuts when they deserve it. I am really conflicted with the primary choices that you guys have. We're going to be getting into that because there's a lot there, and some of it's not good. Like, I'm really confused about the person that Trump endorsed because as soon as he got the endorsement, he flipped the script on a lot of things. And we're going to be talking about that today too. But first, we got to start getting into some of this other stuff because oil prices are dropping today because it looks like, at least according to Trump, the memorandum of understanding, which he is now counting as a done deal, will apparently be signed on Friday. So Monday may be the day when the Trump administration and the president may get to do a little bragging, maybe some chest puffing over events in the Middle East and their effects on energy prices. President Trump would seem to have already begun that process, taking to his True Social accounts to note that tankers are now once more moving through the Strait of Hormuz in the wake of a peace deal with Iran. So this is from Rapid Response 47. It's a quote of a Donald Trump post on True Social. Trips are starting to move, many loaded up with oil out of the Strait of Hormuz. They are going along the Southern Highway, which is totally safe, secure, and pristine. There are other areas of travel also. President Donald J. Trump. Now, as soon as that post was made, oil prices started dropping like a stone. During prep time, it looked like last I saw prices were down around $81 per barrel. I expect if this deal holds, they may go even lower. So ships are starting to, and this is from the president's post again, ships are starting to move, many loaded up with oil out of the Strait of Hormuz. They're going along the Southern Highway, which is totally safe, secure, and pristine. And of course, there are other travels of area also. That is good news, but it gets better. International markets seem to already be reacting to around the USA deal. Stocks are up, and oil prices are starting to trend downward as well. In what seems an atypically quick reaction by the world markets. Oil prices on Monday fell to the lowest since March after U.S. officials announced an agreement between the United States and Iran. West Texas Intermediate Futures prices, the benchmark index for U.S. trading, registered at about $80.40 a barrel. That figure, which amounted to a 5% drop on Monday, marked the lowest price since March 5th, just a week after the outbreak of the Iran war. Stock prices, meanwhile, climbed on hopes of a resolution to the Iran war. The Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped 530 points, or about 1%, while the S&P 500 increased to 1.4%, and the tech-heavy NASDAQ rose 2.3%. America has already seen some effects at the gasoline pumps. Gas prices have fallen towards $4 per gallon in the national average in recent weeks, nearing the milestone as oil costs have eased in response to negotiations between the U.S. and Iran. The national average price of a gallon of gas stands at $4.06, marking a decline of 46 cents, or 10.2% over the past month. AAA data showed gas prices, however, remain $1.08 higher than where they stood before the Iran war. So this is all good news if this deal lasts. While I'm keeping my powder dry on most of this until Friday, when we actually are supposed to be able to get the text of the supposed memorandum of understanding, I will say this: Iran Iran has lost every war it's been in, but it is one at the negotiation table every single time. So we will see. We will see. I feel like the administration is at least semi-justified in the victory lap they're taking today. We will see how much of this holds to be true. Based on what I'm seeing, it looks like, according to the administration, they are going to be removing and diluting all of the nuclear dust that Iran still has that we've buried. We've, of course, degraded their command and control structures, their ability for offensive and defensive strikes, etc. So I don't know. We'll see. We will see. All right. So that's the first bit of national news that we have for right now. There's more, but I don't want to do all the national all at once. Let me see what's going on, because I know there's supposed to be something popping off with the G7 soon, potentially. And if that does happen, I do want to cover it. But I need to make sure I have that open on a tab somewhere so we don't miss it, especially with everything being janky today. Because everything seems like it's broken, and I don't know why. It doesn't look like they've started the live feed for it yet, so I will try to have that open. Give me just a moment while I check on something else. I'm telling you, I think we are under a cyber attack of some kind, because nothing's working right. It took me, so just to give you guys a bit of backstory while I'm fighting with my system here. So this is a story arc that I have been working on for over a week. I had almost all the dots connected. The only thing we were going to do today was come in, check for any updates, check for any early vote returns, etc., to see what we could put in that we didn't have yet. And then it took 4 hours just to do that, because every time I start trying to have this thing do something, it just freezes. And then X is acting dumb. One of the YouTube channels hasn't been unlocked yet from a copyright strike that we got 9 days ago that was only supposed to last for 7. There's just all kinds of weirdness happening today. All right, so hang on. Let's get back into stuff here while I see if we can get this back up and running again. So yeah, part of my system is being cranky, which is why I've been riffing for the last few minutes. So again, before the break, we set the Oklahoma ballot table. Now we've gone into the Strait of Hormuz stuff a little bit. So over the weekend and into today, we saw reports of a preliminary U.S.-Iran agreement structured as a memorandum of understanding, which last I checked is an actual treaty, so that seems a little weird to me, with a formal signing expected later this week in Switzerland. Apparently, again, this is supposed to all happen on Friday. The big immediate claims are a ceasefire window, a movement towards reopening the Strait of Hormuz, which apparently is already under process today, and a process for dealing with Iran's nuclear program and enriched uranium. The conservative headline version is Trump got a better deal than Obama. The more careful version is Trump may have found an off-ramp, but the details still matter, and the 60-day window is not the same thing as a permanent settlement. And that's the other problem. So we're hearing conflicting reports about whether, this is just going to be 60 days to reopen, get everything up and running, and then Iran and one of its other Arab partners is going to be starting to charge tariffs or whatever they decide to name the fees for the folks to be able to use the strait. Now, according to the administration, this cannot happen and it won't happen, and it's a red line. However, I'm not so happy with Trump's treatment of red lines lately. So I guess we'll have to see. So here's the other part of this we hadn't gotten to. According to President Trump and the administration, the U.S. has helped move 22 ships carrying millions of barrels of oil through the Strait of Hormuz to stabilize prices. That is a useful data point, but we need to phrase it carefully. As a claim from Trump, because that's what it is, and ABC and others have not fully verified all the numbers. So what we can say is this. Trump says the U.S. helped move 22 ships. The broader confirmed point is that the administration is trying to signal safe passage and has been working on long-term price stabilization. But of course, the left doesn't want you to know about that. So, and then we're going to be getting into the G7, which starts today in France. The agenda is practically a stress test for the world order. Iran, Ukraine, Russia, China, critical minerals, trade fights, AI online, safety and economic instability. Zelensky is expected to press for more air defense and more pressure on Moscow. Trump enters the summit with tariff threats and a fresh Iran headline. European leaders enter with their own domestic pressure and their own concerns about how much of the global order is now being rewritten in real time. So here's the bridge back home. Foreign policy is not foreign when it changes the price of fuel, food, fertilizer, shipping, electricity, and everything sitting on store shelves right here in Oklahoma. Trump may have found an off-ramp in Iran. The question is whether it leads to peace or just the next 60-day deadline. So, yeah. So, now let's take a bit of a breath. Except not really. Because even the fun stories have a culture war staple to them. America 250 is supposed to be a birthday party. 250 years of the United States. That ought to be the kind of thing where people can at least agree to show up with a plate of sandwiches and pretend to like each other for at least one afternoon. Instead, the kickoff gave us two competing visions of patriotism. On one side, the White House hosted UFC Freedom 250 on the South Lawn, tied to the president's 80th birthday, and America 250 kickoff. 7 fights, 2 title fights, a professional sports spectacle at the White House, and exactly the kind of loud, unapologetic, masculine red, white, and blue energy that makes half the country cheer and the other half develop a sudden allergy to pay-per-view. On the other side, Democrats and celebrity activists had a counter event in New York, Rise Up, Sing Out, a concert framed around the First Amendment with names like Bette Midler, Robert De Niro, Patti Smith, Rufus Wainwright, Joy Reid, Julia Roberts, and others. I used to have such a crush on Julia Roberts back in the day. She's ruined that for me, though. She's probably happy that she's ruined that for me, though. And it was explicitly billed as counter-programming. So America 250, as you would have expected, some unity didn't actually begin with unity. It began with counter-programming. So let's take a look at some of this first, because we're going to take a look at some of the things that really, really ticked off the left about yesterday. And I have to admit, I didn't really pay that much attention to it because I was exhausted. So for those of you who were looking for us Saturday night and last night, I apologize. I was worn smooth out. So Saturday was supposed to be a birthday party for one of my grandkids. It also turned into a birthday party for my grandniece and a graduation celebration for one of my older grandkids. So I was at Lake Eufaula from about 11:30 Saturday night until almost 6:30, because I had planned on, well, first of all, we were supposed to be there by 10. Unfortunately, somebody didn't give me specific enough directions for me to get where we were going, and it's been so long since I've been there, I forgot how big the damn lake was. So I finally got somebody to answer the phone for me to tell me where we were supposed to be at. So we got there about 11:30. So then when I figured out it turned into this big brouhaha with family we hadn't seen in forever and almost all my grandkids there, I was spending time. So first of all, there's like this big lake stuff where they've got floaties and big obstacle courses and everything. So we were all running back and forth between the pool, which I would have preferred to stay in, and the lake while my son was running people around on his boat and showing off. And every time okay, guys, I got to go. I got to work later. But Papa, if you leave, we have to get out of the water because nobody wants to watch us. And then they would dogpile me. So, yeah. Anyway, so I got home finally about 8:30 Saturday night, which was 30 minutes before showtime. And unfortunately, in between that and the fact that every time we get ready to do this alien show, new drops happen. So I haven't folded in the new drops into the script that I've been working on for like 6 weeks now. So, yeah, we're going to try that again in 2 more weeks. And then last night I was supposed to do Kingdom and Country, but I slept all day because I'm old now and I can't do what I used to be. Dude, I used to be able to run for days at a time and then sleep later. And yeah, I'm realizing that as I have aged, I can't do that anymore. I like to pretend I can until I try. And then it just doesn't go well at all. but it is what it is. There's not much I can do about it now. So yeah, we're here. We're doing this one because it's really important. And we do, I know I'm rambling a bit today because I'm fighting my system all over the place, but we do have all kinds of Oklahoma specific stuff we're still going to get to. And if I happen to run long a little bit, that's okay too. Because it's a good, it's a good all around show. So we're going to show you something here in a minute if I can get it to load of why the Democrats were so mad last night, which I really don't get because it's like they don't seem to understand how all this stuff actually works. But we're going to put this on the screen real quick. This was epic, and I'm kind of sad that I missed it, if I'm being completely honest, because this would have been worth having on, and I kind of forgot about it because I didn't wake up until right before Al went live, and then I wasn't up for very long because I'd been sleeping off and all day because I'm old now, and I'm just going to embrace that. But anyway, so here's this, and everybody's big mad about this. I'm going to let that play one more time just because it's awesome. So apparently, from what I understand, that was a combined flight of the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels, which is amazing. I don't think I've ever seen that happen before. And also, for all the leftists screaming and yelling about, you and I paid for all that, right? Guess what? Those are considered training exercise flights, and they're pretty much already baked into the budget. So we didn't really pay anything extra for it. And even if we did, it's America's 250th birthday, you fucking commies. I know, language, but it's going to be one of those days. Because while we were doing this, dude, we had cage fights on the White House lawn. And for everybody who's screaming and yelling about how un-American this is, everybody seems to forget that there were presidents that used to hold horse races in front of the White House. Teddy Roosevelt had a boxing gym in the basement of the White House. Now, was it anything like this? No. But he still had people coming in and out all the time who were famous boxers who were wanting to train with the President of the United States. This is nothing new. The problem that I have with this is how much we seem to have lost touch with what actually makes America awesome. But yeah, that was totally awesome. And apparently at one point there was flyovers of even bigger planes. Now that's not the only thing that happened last night that has liberals more shall we say more than a little miffed, because this happened. Hang on. So this isn't a very long clip either, but hang on. It's worth the watch. It's worth the watch. And if you don't have a sense of humor, this is probably going to piss you off, so you might want to not watch.
And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man. Am I right, America? Ladies and gentlemen. And lastly, Michelle Obama is a man.
That's a man. Okay, look, seriously. I don't know whether Michelle Obama, or as I call her, Big Mike, is a dude or not. I do know there have been some questionable shots of what appears to be junk in a dress. But I don't know. I don't care to know. But the fact that for the last, 10 years plus, we have been told that Republicans need to realize that people are allowed to say things that are offensive. Why is it that only works one way? You ever notice that? The left's groupthink is part of what is actually killing the left from the inside out. And it's interesting to watch because they have decided that, this is the same crowd who wants diversity, inclusiveness, all this stuff, all these things they say they want, but it doesn't count unless you toe their exact line. And we've seen that playing out in media now for a while until the trend started reversing, and now the left is having a cow because a lot of conservatives are getting involved in the media business and they don't like any of that. There are conservatives that are now at least slightly leaning conservatives who are in control of places like Paramount. So suddenly a lot of their woke ideology seems to be disappearing. Amazon seems to be going the other way with their recent decision to shelve and possibly redo a new Stargate project with what they consider as a new showrunner who will make it more inclusive, which usually means we're going to DEI the fuck out of it and make sure nobody wants to watch it. But anyway, so a little side note there. Apparently there's going to be banners with hashtag save Stargate flying over the Amazon headquarters tomorrow, which tells you exactly how pissed off the fans are. And I happen to be one of them. Because I didn't even know this. And I know it's a bit of an aside, but I didn't even know this. So they got the announcement that Stargate was being canceled sometime around its 200th episode. So they started taking direct shots at the network. And somehow, even though I watched every single episode, I missed them. So one of the ones that I thought was the most interesting was Sam and the character played by Claudia Black, and I can't remember the character's name. Vala, there we go. They were coming back from a shopping trip, and I keep wanting to say Colonel O'Neill, but that's not right. It's the other guy. The character that was played by Ben Browder, and then the sergeant who was always the one dialing the gate were coming around the corner. He's like, oh, and it doesn't make any direct references, but it's like, oh, they canceled it? I didn't even know the new season had started yet. And then another little side note where Sam is talking to someone and they're making direct references to how the folks that are in charge of the program of the Stargate don't give it the love that it deserves anymore. And one of the direct lines is, you would think that the people in charge of this network of planets, with emphasis on the word network, would give you guys the love that they deserve. Somehow I missed those. And then there was one more that I thought was absolutely amazing because one of the showrunners actually follows me, probably because I used to do a podcast with Corin Nemec for a while before he got busy doing Hollywood stuff again. But he pointed out that when they got informed they were getting canceled, they stopped getting show notes. So he sent over a script that had Teal'c visiting the vagina monologues and assumed it would get pulled from final production. It did not. And it became one of the funniest scenes that almost all the fans have talked about for forever. Because he's just looking around realizing there's nothing but women here. And this woman saying vagina, vagina, vagina. It actually almost felt like a Foo Bunny episode for those of you who know the reference. And he just kept sinking lower and lower in his chair. And it was absolutely, he's just like, I really thought they were going to make me pull this. And they never did. So we ran with it. So anyway. Okay. So let's see what else we can get into today. See how much trouble we can get into because fun times. Okay. So I've been trying to figure something out here because I don't think it did what I wanted it to do. Well, it says it did, but it looks the same as the last one. Okay, so let's do this because I don't read at this point. I'm even lost and dazed and confused from my own notes because it's just been one of those days. So hang on. Okay, so we went through the early voting numbers. We went through all of that. We have, of course, the weird part is, again, I'm backtracking a little bit, but it's just for anybody who's just joined us. The Republican stuff is getting a lot of traction here. The Democratic stuff, not so much. However, here's a new little bit of information. Remember when I mentioned that OMES had its May General Revenue Fund stuff released today? It did come out today. So far, the May General Revenue Fund collections were a total of $701.5 million, which is actually 10.2% above estimates and 9% above May from the previous year. Through the first 11 months of fiscal year 2026 for the state of Oklahoma, collections are at $7.9 billion, which is $458.3 million above year-to-date estimates. So, again, when anybody starts telling you we're broke and we don't have the money for stuff, the receipts are all in. So Oklahoma ain't broke. The state's own revenue report says collections are running hot. That doesn't prove every spending idea is a good one. It doesn't make every tax cut irresponsible. It means bumper sticker budget arguments aren't enough. If a candidate says cut taxes, ask which taxes, how fast, and what happens to services. If a candidate says fund schools, ask where the money's going and What are we measuring? If someone says we can't afford it, ask, can't afford it or won't prioritize it? All right, so we're going to get into the governor race side of things. So let's go straight into the GOP governor's race. There are 9 Republicans currently on the ballot, but the public conversation has narrowed around a few lanes. Gettner, Drummond, Mike Mazzei, who I have serious questions about at this point, Charles McCall, Chip Keating, and Jake Merrick as the outside stage presser candidate. Of everybody that I've looked into so far, Jake Merrick is about the only one who isn't raising any red flags for me, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything because I was one of the people pushing Kevin Stitt the last time really, really hard, and we saw what happened with some of the scandals from that governor's mansion. Anyway, so the debate stage did tell us something. The non-doc KSWO C-SPAN debate had Drummond, Mazzei, McCall, and Keating. According to those folks in charge, the others didn't meet the polling threshold. That does not mean their voters do not matter, although it kind of makes them feel like they do. In a low turnout primary, they absolutely can. Mazzei's lane is the finance guy. Tax cuts, now Trump-backed. No income tax, which sounds great on paper because I am a big proponent of taxation as theft. And if you don't believe me, just look at what the left is screaming about Elon Musk these days. Remember when he was their darling? Now they suddenly don't like the fact that he managed to work the government system to his advantage and not only make himself a trillionaire, but create like 400 millionaires. That's the part they really don't like, by the way. And then property tax relief, education reform, Mississippi-style reading results, anti-China, anti-foreign land, and now, of course, the Trump endorsement. However, the problem with that is the anti-China, anti-foreign land guy just reversed on a big decision. So the stuff that's going on in Inola complicates him for me. So the proposed aluminum smelter is pitched at a $4 billion economic development win, and apparently none of the locals want it in the first place. It's also the largest proposed aluminum smelter in the country. But Drummond sued to block it, citing pollution and public nuisance concerns. Mazzei, now that he's gotten the Trump endorsement, has come out on the pro-smelter side. And that matters because he had previously raised concerns about incentives and foreign ownership. And the foreign ownership concern is real, by the way. Emirates Global Aluminum holds 60%. Century Aluminum holds 40%. EGA is UAE-based, and Drummond's office says it is, in fact, a state-owned enterprise of the United Arab Emirates. So can't call it China-owned. Clean phrasing is UAE-linked or majority phrasing owned, but the problem is it is still majority foreign owned. Drummond's lane is attorney general, law and order, fighter pilot, anti-cartel, anti-illegal marijuana, foreign land concerns, and willing to fight the machine. Supporters, pardon me, see independence. Critics call it opportunism or disloyalty. And again, I'm just giving you the Cliff's Notes versions on this stuff before we do a bit of a deeper dive if we have time, because I don't know who I would be voting for either if I was able to vote in this primary. But then we have McCall's lane, former speaker, experienced tax cut record, championed the grocery tax cut, school choice, constitutional carry. He says, I delivered conservative policy. Downside in an angry primary experience can sound like ownership of everything voters dislike. Then we have, as I have said all the time, I'm really tired of political dynasties, and it looks like the Keatings are trying to start one of their own. Chip Keating is actually running. He's running as an outsider. He's a former trooper, public safety, mental health, marijuana enforcement, famous last name, funny, anti-career politician message with the most recognizable political last name in the race. The problem with that is he's also come out and said that he wants to undo the will of the voters who did, in fact, pass the medical marijuana stuff. Now, if you want to look at reforms for it, that's one thing, but he's talking about a full moratorium on it and just ending it altogether. So I don't think he's going to make it too far in the primary, if I'm being honest. But then we have Merrick, grassroots. He's considered a pressure candidate, radio host, former state senator, gun rights, school issues, vaccine era politics, and the argument that the official conversation is too soft. Now, as we've been talking about on this show now for the last few days, when we've done the shows, there are lots of attack ads. Don't ask whether the ad is negative. Ask whether it survives contact with the record. Drummond stood with the ACLU on transgender surgeries for minors. That is actually mostly false. So what happened was he opted to stay out of it until a decision was made and then helped the state win the case against the ACLU. Keating had to resign after violent crime or domestic violence spiked. That is also mostly false. While crime did spike, Keating left because his 2-year term was over. Mazzei tried to raise taxes or kill income tax. That's actually true. So the guy who's gotten Trump's endorsement, which should confuse almost everybody in Oklahoma at this point, is actually the guy who's tried to raise taxes. He tried to kill an income tax, and now he's trying to say that he's the opposite of that stuff. But he was also the guy who was once saying, the smelting project in Inola kind of looks a little fishy, not really sure where the funding's coming from, not a fan of foreign companies and countries buying interest in Oklahoma, and now he's for it now that the endorsements come out. So then there's Keating, the guy who everybody thought in Oklahoma would probably be a shoo-in because everybody knows the name, and he still may. You don't know. So apparently he was part of a hospital board and a transgender center that was pushing for treatment for minors, and that is also mixed. There are parts of that attack ad that were true and parts that were not. Drummond donated to Biden. True, which is scary, even if it wasn't as much as they said it was in the ad. So Mazzei never supported the national popular vote. That is mostly false. Drummond dismissed marijuana straw owner cases. That is also mostly false. McConnell passed the largest tax cut in state history. Mostly true, depending on measurement. Now, as we come to the end of hour one, Oklahoma votes tomorrow. The budget picture is hotter than expected. Inola is now a governor race wedge, and the GOP primary is a fight between Trump's pick, the AG who fights the speaker, who delivered the outsider, former trooper, and the grassroots pressure candidate. Coming up, the Democratic governor side, U.S. Senate, and more on State Question 832, judges, which won't be on the ballot for tomorrow, but there are going to be judges at the state level that'll be up for retention during the actual vote in November, and you'll need to check your local ballot to see if you have any local judges that are up. All right, so we will be right back. Again, this is the Rick Robinson Show. This is the Monday edition. We're going to go till we get through it all, and we'll be right back, so don't go too far.
They tried to quench the fire, drown it all in chains, tried to break our will and wash away our names. But every spark they buried only fed the flame. Now the cry of freedom's roaring through the rain. Hear the cry of freedom on the winds of change. Every voice united, breaking every chain. We were born to stand and never bow again.
Remember when entertainment was actually entertaining? When comedy was about being funny, movies were about telling great stories, and you didn't need a political lecture every time you hit play. Great entertainment still exists, it's just getting harder to find. Even the biggest streaming platforms leave audiences disappointed. That's why there's Studio TST, pure entertainment, real comedy, independent films, bold creators, movies, comedy, music, and more, and the home of fearless sketch comedy. That show tonight, entertainment the way you want it. Funny, creative, unapologetic, and agenda-free. Studio TST, the future of entertainment starts here. Join Studio TST today for just $5 a month.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNradio.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice.
Welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Hour 1 is in the books. Hour 2 still to come, and there may or may not be a little bit of after the show, depending on if we get through all the notes. I would like to point out something. Looks like somebody on Twitter, and I'm not going to try to say that because I can't really see it very well from my side of the screen. Trump is gone in 2 years. Somebody needs to tell the left that, because we know. Although some of us have been trolling people and saying Trump 2028, but it won't happen. It won't happen. We know that. It's just fun to watch people lose their minds over stupidity. But speaking of people losing their minds over stupidity, remember that counter programming I was talking about? Here's one bit of it. Anybody recognize that asshat right there? That guy? Yeah, this is a take action and riseupsingout.com. This was the counter programming to the UFC fight on the White House lawn. But here you go. You ready? I don't think you're ready, but we're gonna do it anyway because I know I don't really want to play this, but we kind of have to. Sorry, I'm making sure all my levels and stuff are right because I was playing with the slider that would make this not play if I wasn't careful. So.
Right? Later, the letter stated, regardless of our political affiliation or whether we engage in politics or not, we all love our country. So not so fast. The phrase, we all love our country, stuck in my throat. Because our country isn't so lovable right now. I hate to say it, but loving our country is starting to sound like an abused spouse saying they love their abuser. I can't love a country that starts stupid and inhumane wars, killing thousands of innocents and indirectly causing the deaths and suffering of millions more. I can't love a country that takes health care away from millions of people and uses that money to enrich their pals in the Trump-Epstein class. I can't love a country that sends out...
Okay, I got to stop there for a second before my head explodes because there's so much to unpack there. So let's start with the last point. Him talking about the Trump-Epstein class with everything that's come out about Hollywood is laughable to me because you know he knew. That's the part that nobody wants to talk about. All these people that are screaming and yelling about Epstein and everything else that are still affiliated with Hollywood, especially the people that have been there as long as that guy, that one right there on your screen, you can see him. You know who I'm talking about. You know as well as I do that he knew every bit of maybe not all of it, but he knew enough and he still stayed in it and he still kept making money off of it. So don't talk to me about the Trump-Epstein class because here's the thing the left doesn't ever talk about. Nobody would even know what the hell was happening with Epstein if not for Donald John Trump. Here's the other thing. All the allegations, somebody said there's 38,000 pages of proof that he's done terrible things with kids. You know what? Those were all investigated while the left was in charge of all the things. And you know what they found? Unfounded. And I'm going to say this again. It would be pretty fucking retarded for a guy who's involved in it to testify to help get the man not only first arrested, but then convicted of some of these things. If he was involved, why the hell would he do that? Trump is by no stretch of the imagination stupid. If he was involved, why would he do that? But you guys hate him so much, you can't think logically anymore. I've been talking about that now for weeks. Now the problem is, even here in Oklahoma, politics has become such a gray area that even the folks on my side are starting to think with the survival part of their brain because they don't know who to trust or who to listen to anymore. Because it used to be a black and white zero-sum game. It's not anymore. There is not a single person that I can find who is running for office that has garnered enough attention to possibly make it through the primary who doesn't have a skeleton or 12 in their closet on the GOP side or the DNC side. And that's terrifying when you think about it. But it's because of people like this that I keep voting for the other side. It's for the fact that the other side is openly embracing communism that I have to keep voting for the other side. You know what? I want different choices, but I also want politicians who are going to do what we send them to their elected positions to do. And you know what we keep having? People who keep promising us that they're going to do these things and then never doing them. You know the only one who's actually done most of what he said he was going to do while he's been in office? The guy everybody hates. Which is the real reason why everybody hates him. All right, so back to this. While I sneak off and grab some duct tape.
Masked militias to shoot citizens in the streets.
Okay, we didn't even make it 5 seconds in. Nobody was shooting citizens in the streets, you retard. What happened was people were actively protesting and then made the protests violent and made the protests illegal and then refused to follow commands when they were told to do certain things. Then one of them actively tried to run someone over. And if you look at the tape, if not for the fact that the wheels were spinning, when she gunned it, smiling at him, she was pointed straight at him. And don't even get me started on the other guy who should have already been in jail from the thing a week ago and probably would still be alive today. That's part of the problem. If local law enforcement would actually do their job, be like, well, it doesn't matter because ICE is Nazis. You know what? I don't want to hear shit anymore from the left about Nazis. Because y'all are trying to send one to the Senate from Maine. An actual Nazi. Not a possible Nazi, not a, well, theoretically, some of the stuff that he says aligns with white supremacy when they're taken out of context and turned into 30-second sound bites. No, this is an actual Nazi. This is a guy who understands what that tattoo meant and had it put next to his heart. That's the part none of you guys want to talk about. That tattoo, if it meant nothing to him, would have been on his shoulder, his arm, or his back. If he didn't understand the meaning of it, and it didn't matter to him, he damn sure wouldn't have put it next to his heart. And as far as the Epstein shit, y'all are completely excusing women that are telling you what a sleazeball, or is completely just removing the opinions of women and excusing him. Then these women are trying to tell you what a sleazeball he was. But he's changed, Rick. He's changed. Donald Trump hasn't ever changed.
Torture our neighbors and separate families.
ICE does not actively separate families. ICE asks all the time, do you want your children placed with someone else that you trust while you are undergoing this process? The answer 9 times out of 10 has been no, I want my children with me. So the only time we actively separate families, as far as ICE is concerned, is when the people that are being taken into custody for violating our laws and our sovereignty say, no, we don't want to, we want them somewhere else.
I can't love a country that's led by a racist, misogynist, xenophobic tyrant.
I bet if you lived in Maine, you'd be voting for Graham Plattner, who is in fact a racist, misogynist. Just saying.
And let me just say it. I can't love the country that's led by Donald Trump.
You know what? I had a sitting president of the United States look at me on camera while being flanked by Marines with flags behind him, bathed in red lights, giving the closest thing to a Hitler-esque speech that I have ever seen in this country, telling me that I was a terrorist, but I still love the country. I might not have agreed with him, but I still love the country. I love everything the country stands for. I love everything it was founded upon. The people that don't love it don't understand it, and they never will because they don't care enough to learn. That's the part that nobody wants to talk about. We keep blaming our education system. That only goes so far. Yes, our education system is crap. But here's the thing, ladies and gentlemen, and normally I would be holding it up and showing you that we have more computing power in our hand today and access to more information today than it took for us to get to the moon and for us to launch shuttlecrafts. But nobody wants to use that for anything more than cat memes and doom scroll. History's there. It's there for you to learn. If you actually bothered to learn it and didn't go looking down rabbit holes like the 1619 Project, which have been debunked wildly, then you would understand this country. You would understand why the 3/5 compromise, even though it wasn't perfect, was a way to make sure that the slaveholding states didn't have unfettered control of Congress. The same party who wanted every slave counted in the population so they could have more representation than the North is doing the same thing to you today by flooding illegal immigrants into the country and giving them the right to vote clandestinely. And even if they don't vote, they still get counted in the census, which means the sanctuary cities and sanctuary states hold undue sway over your elections. And now they're trying to convince you that the Electoral College was racist. The 3/5 clause and the Electoral College were two of the ways that the founding fathers tried to make sure that individual states had a say in who governed them at the federal level. That's why one of the houses of Congress used to be specifically appointed by the states. So the states had representation, and so did the people. But we broke it. And nobody that's teaching anything today in the curriculum, if they even teach it at all, is ever going to tell you how much the 17th Amendment screwed up this country. Because the states no longer have a direct voice in how they are represented in Washington. And that's terrible. Not to the commies, not to the socialists, but it is, in fact, terrible. I didn't really think this clip was going to take this long for me to get through.
And a sycophant Congress. For most of my life, of course, I did love this country. The United States of America welcomed my immigrant ancestors. It gave me, my family, and my fellow citizens such rich opportunities and extraordinary freedoms.
And you worked around a bunch of pedophiles and rapists and never said a word.
I want my country back.
Your country never left, bitch.
That's why I stand with the Committee for the First Amendment. And you, all of you. Together we rise up, we sing out, we keep organizing, and we fall in love again. Thank you.
Now keep in mind, there were 80,000 people at the event on the White House lawn. It's like maybe 35, 40,000 at that one, and that's being generous. Just saying. Now, I'm not going to play the clip of Bette Midler because I don't want to, and it's my show. I can do what I want. So, yeah, but anyway, so there's that. All right, so let's see what else we can get into because we still have plenty more to go into. So before the break, at the top of the hour, we went through all the stuff so far that I can find regarding the Republicans. Now we're going to get into the Democratic side of things. So at this point, there aren't as many running on the left as there are on the right. So the Democratic ballot for governor is Cindy Munson, Connie Johnson, and Araya. Munson is the institutional House Democrat, House Minority Leader, first Asian American woman elected to the Oklahoma House. Supports schools, teacher pay, cost of living, tax relief, health care, and a public vote on repealing Oklahoma's abortion ban. Her message: I know how to win our territory. I know the Capitol and Democrats should not concede Oklahoma before the general election starts. Connie Johnson is the veteran progressive, former state senator, cannabis reform, healthcare, criminal justice reform, and has statewide campaign experience. Araya, who's apparently cool enough that she only needs one name, is the low information candidate officially on the ballot, but local reporting is thin, and KOCO noted repeated attempts to contact the candidate, who I guess is a dude. A name like Araya, I wasn't sure, because I can't find much on them. So there does not appear to have been a full televised Democratic debate like the GOP had. We do have some snippets from some of the other stuff. That is where we pulled this data from, but there wasn't a televised debate. Now, for those of you who don't know, because Mark Wayne Mullen was elevated to Secretary of DHS, I believe. I think that's anyway. We have an open Senate seat. So there was somebody who was appointed, but that person who's been appointed is not running. So far we have Sean Buckner vying for the seat. Gary Ty England, no relation, or at least not the may or may not be related to the other guy, but isn't him because reasons. Anyway, Nick Hankins, Kevin Hearn, and Brian Regain. So Kevin Hearn is basically the one shaping to get most of the numbers for this. So Hearn has been Trump endorsed. However, that's been a little questionable here in Oklahoma, especially with his governor pick so far. He's a current congressman from Tulsa, former business owner, heavy favorite, and has the clearest statewide profile. Polling we found had Hearn at 41%, England at 8%, Reagan at 4%, Buckner at 2%, Hankins at 1%, and so far 44% other or undecided. So Hearn can be way ahead and still need a runoff. He needs 50 plus 1 to get there. So we may or may not be headed to another vote in August, depending on how this goes. England was actually I believe if memory serves, a guitarist with Garth Brooks. Has some name recognition here in the state, very well known in country music. Has a lot of rural voters that he's wanting to help take care of, veterans as well as border issues, and trying to see if he can stay in the fiscal conservative lane. Reagan's a firefighter, paramedic, ER nurse, working class first responder. Buckner, Cherokee citizen, Air Force veteran, and watchdog, and wants to actively audit the Senate. May or may not get my vote. I'm just saying. Hankins, data, business, intelligence, no PAC, America first, no foreign wars, single subject bills. I like the single subject bills thing. I have been pushing for that at the federal level for forever. Is one item, one bill, so they can be read and understood, so that we can start taking these things back to the public forum and putting them online and saying, this is what Congress is wanting to do. This is how this bill is going to shape up. This is the only thing that it's going to do. But, of course, they don't want that, because nobody wants that. Because that makes... Here's the thing, and then this is the quiet part, and this is just almost just as bad at the state level. If the government actually fixed what was broken, eventually we wouldn't need the government as much anymore, and it would start being able to be shrunk. They don't want that at the state or the federal level. So for the Democratic side, we have Troy Green, Jim Priest, Joe Cassidy Jr., Nikayla Jasmine Thomas, and Irvin Stone Yin. So far, it's been really hard to find any public polling. Priest is a lawyer, ordained minister, nonprofit leader, former Goodwill CEO from around 2010. Democratic AG nominee. Green, a working class public safety and anti-trafficking. Thomas, younger progressive, RN, Chickasaw citizen, healthcare and equal representation. Yin is a doctor, former state senator, and an ex-Republican, which is rare around here. Cassidy has been a repeat candidate on the ballots as an attorney, a veteran, and a retired professor. So that's the Senate picture for the most part. It's Hearn versus the runoff math on the GOP side and a biography race on the Democratic side. When we get to the break in just a minute, we're going to be talking about the state question 832. I'm going to be honest, we're going to be spending a lot more time there, because really all I'm trying to do is give you the information that I've been able to find on the gubernatorial candidates, so you can maybe help make your own better informed decision. I'm not trying to tell you who to vote for. So I'm just giving you what I've been able to find about them and hoping it helps you make a decision for those of you who haven't voted here locally and are planning on doing so tomorrow. But the state question 832, that's some scary territory. And we're going to get into why. Now, before we go to the break, we do got to talk about this. Because again, this is another reason why I keep saying at this point, it's not vote blue no matter who. It's vote red or we might all wind up dead. And that's because of things like this that are coming out from the current minority leader in the House, Hakeem Jeffries. And sorry, I just misplaced what I had. So I'm trying to find it. Okay, so hang on. I got it queued up now, I think. And I'm going to back it up just a little bit to make sure we catch the important parts. And here we go. This is Hakeem Jeffries basically saying some of the quiet parts out loud that the left keeps telling him they don't really want him talking about right now.
24 outrunning the national political environment. When Donald Trump won in 2016, he lost the popular vote, but he came to Congress with 241 Republicans and only 194 Democrats. Of course, in Donald Trump's first midterm election, we flipped 40 seats. This time around, because of our overperformance in 2024 with candidates who were focused on the economy, we only need to flip a handful of seats, and we will. With a focus on driving down the high cost of living, fixing our broken healthcare system, getting ICE under control, ending this reckless and costly war.
This is going to be one of those ones I interrupt a lot, and I apologize for nothing. Who broke it? Who broke the healthcare system, Mr. Jeffries? Because it wasn't our side. We told you guys the ACA was a terrible idea. Your side at the time, your predecessor, was telling everybody, well, it's an awesome thing, but we got to pass it to find out what's in it. Guess what we found out when we found out what was in it? Obama lied when he said if you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. He lied when he said this is going to save the American families an average of $4,000 per household per year. And the lies just kept going. So if you're going to talk about broken healthcare, let's talk about who actually broke it. Because you guys broke it. Now, before everybody on my side says, oh, yeah, you're so right. Yeah, get him. No. Because we fucked up too. Let's be honest. The Republicans ran on the concept of if you give us control of the House and the Senate again, we are going to repeal Obamacare. Because we knew, for those of us with half a brain cell or maybe one or two to rub together, that this was the on-ramp to socialized medicine. Then we had a Supreme Court justice who said, oh yeah, this is a tax, it's fine. Except it doesn't fit the legal definition of a tax. So, but then we gave Republicans back control of everything. And then what did the message morph into? Well, we're going to repeal it, but then we're going to replace it with something even better. No, fuck you. Don't replace it with nothing better. Get rid of it and then start fixing the parts of the system that are broken. Because there are parts of our system that are actively broken. And it's that way on purpose. Because the insurance companies know that most of you don't go through the line items of your hospital bills. Most of you don't go through the line items of your doctor visits. Most of you don't realize that certain hospitals charge you $15 for a Tylenol. Others charge you $9. Neither of which is good, but why is there a $6 difference? For one. For two, if you really want to start fixing what's broken, allow for interstate competition with insurance companies. I, for one, don't think we should have insurance companies at all, especially not compulsory insurance, because it's stupid. Because all that does is drive up the cost, because once it's required, they know you have to have it. Then they do whatever they can to try to rake you over the coals and make as much money as they can until somebody catches what they've done. And half the time, there's so many lobbyists from insurance companies that nobody bothers to care. So we can't actually fix what's broken because Republicans went from we're going to repeal it to, well, we're going to repeal it and replace it. So no, we don't get a pass on this one either. But somebody needs to be asking this sumbitch who actually broke it, because it wasn't us. We may not have fixed it after they broke it, but we weren't the ones that broke it.
In the Middle East and cleaning up corruption.
This was not a war of choice in the Middle East. Mr. Jeffries, whether we wanted to admit it or not, Iran has been at war with us since 1979. We may not have wanted to admit it. We may have been living on the banks of the river denial, but they have been at war with us since 1979. This is something that should have been addressed January 22nd, 1981, and it was not. Now, again, I'm keeping my powder dry on this memorandum of understanding until I see it on Friday, but I'm doing this because I don't really think it's going to do what we think it's going to do. I feel like I'm watching The Princess Bride again. You keep using this word. I do not think it means what you think it means. I'm wanting to start tagging the president.
Fundamentally, we believe that America's far too expensive. The cost of living is way too high. There are far too many people who are working.
Why is the cost of living so high, Mr. Jeffries? Could it be that government intervention does what government intervention always does and makes everything more expensive? Housing has gone up since there's been more government intervention. You guys have been handing deeds to illegal aliens, which has made housing even more expensive. You have driven up the cost of food by allowing more and more people that shouldn't have access to our safety net programs to have access to our safety net programs. You have driven up the cost of everything by putting illegal aliens into $150, $250, $350 a night hotel rooms and giving them their meals of choice depending on where they're from. So again, why is it so expensive?
Hard, they're playing by the rules, but they can't thrive and can barely survive. That's an unacceptable situation in America, the wealthiest country in the history of the world. And we're going to focus like a laser beam on actually making life better.
You notice he's not saying how? Because you know what their idea is? They want to take people like Elon Musk and turn them over and shake their pockets and make sure that they don't get to keep their money. Here's the thing the left isn't telling you. Elon Musk is a trillionaire on paper because he does what a lot of rich people do. He invests, and it allows him to create valuations, and it allows him to be able to prove to people what he's worth. And then he uses debt to his advantage because rich people can do that because you don't have to pay taxes on debt. This system is set up the way it's been for as long as it's been because our founding fathers wanted all of us to be able to take care of ourselves. So they designed the system, all of it, before we had progressives starting to try to tear it apart, to make sure that each of us hit the ground running at the same time. We may not necessarily be able to run at the same pace. We may not be able to get to the same place at the same time, but this is all about freedom. And the scariest thing about one of the things that they changed, since we're talking about America's 250th birthday, is it was never intended to be life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It was intended to be life, liberty, and the pursuit of property, because property is what guarantees freedom. Because if there's something that you own that the government cannot take away from you, that is your freedom. That is your little piece of the earth. That is your fiefdom. And that's why property taxes suck. Because even if you have the deed to your house, you still have to lease the land from your county. That's not ownership. But notice he never says how they're going to fix it.
For working class Americans, everyday Americans, middle class Americans, and all.
Elon Musk just turned 400 working class Americans into millionaires overnight. I think he's done more to fix situations for working class Americans than you've done your entire career.
All those who aspire to be part of the middle class.
Leader Jeffries, I do want to ask you if Democrats do, in fact, take back the House. I want to get an understanding of what your top priorities would be. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, your colleague, said this back in April, quote, President Trump has launched a massive war of enormous risk and of catastrophic consequence without reason, rationale, or congressional authorization, which is as clear a violation of the Constitution as any. All of these incidents and plenty more have clearly driven our country past the threshold for impeachment. Do you agree if Democrats take back the House, will you move to impeach President Trump?
We haven't ruled anything in or ruled anything out in terms of accountability. What we have said is that our focus is going to be to make life more affordable for the American people. We have to drive down the high cost of living. We have to restore the American dream, which a lot of people understandably have concluded is broken right now. When you work hard and play by the rules in this country, we believe that you should live an affordable life, a comfortable life, and a good life.
All right, we're at bottom of the hour. We got to take one. We may or may not have a little bit of overtime today, depending on how quickly I can get through this last little bit of notes. Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
anger prowls for prey. I've heard good people draw their lines and call it holy rage, but the cross was never raised to bless the stones we throw. And if mercy leaves the house, there's something wrong down in the soul. Words ain't bullets, but they can hit the same. And once a heart turns cold enough, it forgets what grace is for. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. You can wave a flag above it, you can quote a verse or two, you can dress it up like justice, till it almost sounds like truth. But outrage ain't righteous when it changes with the side. And you can't love your neighbor, treating them like they're downrange. We're all image bearers, breath of God and dust. And you don't heal a broken land by teaching it not to trust. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place. No room for hate. No room for hate. No room for hate. Drag it to the cross, lay it in the ground. Let the blood of Jesus turn the whole thing around. Truth can still be spoken, courage still can't stand, but rage don't get to rule the soul of a faithful man. There's no room for hate in America tonight. No room in the home where the children need the light. No room in the heart where the Savior's supposed to stay. If Jesus owns the house, then hatred don't got no place.
Let revival start where the anger breaks.
Where the anger breaks.
Let healing rise up where the hurt gives way.
No room for hate.
No room for hate.
No room for hate.
No room for hate.
Not in Jesus' name. Oh, not in this house. Not in this heart. Not in His name. No room for hate.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mic in his hand, yeah, he's got the clout. Heartland Radio, raw and real. Tune in, speak up, and feel what we feel.
And welcome back into the program, ladies and gentlemen. Again, this is the primary Eve edition of the Rick Robinson Show, live right here on KLRMradio.com. We've been spending a lot more time on Oklahoma-specific stuff than we normally do, but it's kind of important. So one of the last things I really want to touch on, which is probably honestly one of the most important things, is this whole idea that they're putting on the ballot an initiative to raise the Oklahoma minimum wage. However, this is not necessarily what a lot of folks are thinking it is. It sounds great on paper because it's going to raise the floor on the minimum wage to $15 per hour in Oklahoma by 2029, and then it's going to index it into a cost of living or COLA starting in 2030. However, this removes and places a lot of things, removes it from the voters and places a lot of things on autopilot. The other problem that we have here is I don't even know very many places right now that are paying anybody minimum wage because they're not. Even most of the fast food restaurants that I know around here are paying people just starting out. Pardon me. Typically anywhere between $10 to $12 an hour. So the idea that the minimum wage needs to be raised automatically, and what you're really doing is setting the new floor. The problem with when you set a floor is that lets everybody know the minimum they can get away with paying everybody. And it doesn't do anything to raise wages for folks that are already at, say, $15, $16, $17 an hour. It just brings the rest of the people up next to them, and then they're going back to their bosses going, okay, so when do I get a raise now that I'm $1 above minimum wage? This stuff never works the way they say it's going to. And if you don't believe me, there's a practical example happening in California right now. California raised the hell out of its fast food minimum wage and then exempted one of the governor's biggest donors. And everybody's bringing in kiosks and everything else as quickly as they possibly can. Because reasons. So, yeah, this is bad. At least to me, it's bad. I'm going to say what I usually say. Don't keep trying to California my Oklahoma. That's happening enough in Oklahoma City. So, again, the practical schedule is $12 an hour in 2027, $13.50 in 2028, and then $15 by 2029. Now, we're having to change the language on that a bit because there was supposed to be a $9 jump this year, but this is a rehash of something they've tried to put on the ballot before. Supporters say the minimum wage has been stuck since 2009. Working families are behind, and hundreds of thousands of Oklahoma workers would benefit. Now, the EPI estimates about 357,700 workers could see raises. The problem that I have with that number is that is already counting people that are all above minimum wage. So when they're saying that these people could see raises, these are people that are already making $11, $12 an hour. But as things continue to go up, then they're going to eventually start to see raises. So they're able to use what sounds like a very big number when you have a population of around 4.5 million people, last I looked. But the problem with that is, even though we're talking about, by the time this is all done, a potential annual increase of $2,322 for full-time effective workers, how much is the price going to go up to everything since you're mandating that this has to happen now? I don't know about you, but I've lived through a few minimum wage increases and everything and the only thing that happens is everything gets more expensive. The first one I remember getting was, I think, $0.25. And at that point, I was working 2 fast food jobs, finishing up the end of my associate's degree, and everything got more expensive overnight. Everything on the menu at both of the restaurants I was working at the time, I worked part-time at both McDonald's and Wendy's, because that way I didn't have to worry about trying to fight with a full-time schedule, but still had enough to pay for all the things I needed to pay for. The price of a large drink went from 99 cents to $1.09 overnight. Back then, I think it was a 12 count of American sliced cheese at the store was 99 cents the previous day, and it was $1.09 the next. So this doesn't do ever what they say it's going to do, because it fixes things on paper, and it's a feel-good moment because everybody can, oh, we're going to give poor people more money, and then they're just going to take it away from them again. And it's not just the stores. This is going to increase insurance costs because it's mandatory now to have car insurance. So when they realize you're making more money, they're like, well, that means we can raise our rates. These people supposedly have more disposable income now. And my stance is the same as the opponents. Opponents say market wages are already moving, and the mandated escalator can raise costs. Not can, will. It will also reduce hours. It will cut entry-level jobs and take future wage policy out of the legislature's hands. And that's the problem. When you make everybody's minimum wage $15 an hour, nobody's going to want to pay somebody with zero work experience $15 an hour to start. And even with the markets trying to force the prices to go up to try to match some of the inflation costs, the businesses are still trimming their bottom line by putting in kiosk machines. When is the last time anybody ate at a fast food restaurant? Because I don't eat them very often anymore, but I did just the other day. Couple of interesting things that I noticed. Sonic, which used to be one of my favorite places to go when it was Oklahoma owned. Last time I tried to eat at one. They don't take orders at the stalls anymore in a lot of the ones in the bigger cities. It has a thing that says, hey, put the app on your phone, order and pay, and then we'll bring it to you. The last time I tried to use a McDonald's drive-thru, I got much the same treatment. I couldn't make the app work because it was glitchy. Tried to go through the drive-thru because I'll be honest, a lot of times I like to use the apps because then I can just park and they bring it to me. But last time I tried to order McDonald's, I couldn't make the app work. Apparently it was having some sort of an issue. And when I pulled up, I got somebody that said, hey, we don't take orders through the drive-thru anymore. We ask that you use the app or come inside. So I left because I didn't feel like coming inside. Because business owners are going to do what business owners have to do to protect their bottom line and make sure that they can still make a profit. And I know what a lot of you are about to say. Well, if you can't afford to pay minimum wage, then you don't deserve to be in business. The problem with that line of thinking is the only companies that survive when you do things like this are the companies that all the left says they hate. Amazon's going to be fine. Walmart's going to be fine. Target's going to be fine. A lot of mom and pop shops are going to close. A lot of the smaller privately owned diners are going to go away. Eventually. But everybody can have their 5-minute feel-good moment about, oh, we finally raised minimum wage. But again, here's the thing nobody talks about. When I was running my own business, minimum wage was $5.25 an hour. Nobody that worked for me made less than $7. Even the people that I started on conditional licenses who made $7 an hour were still making well above minimum wage at the time. And then, because I was a contractor, when minimum wage went up to $7.50, I had to eat into my bottom line while I tried to negotiate new contracts. And guess what happened? Most everybody that I had the lower rates with didn't want to go up. So they started going to bigger companies that could absorb the cost without having to pass those costs on to them specifically. At least not in the beginning. So eventually, my company that I had been working on building since 1998 went out of business in 2009, the same year that minimum wage got raised. Coincidence? Probably not. So here's the thing. Even if you support the idea of minimum wage going up to $15 an hour, which we can have that discussion all day long, I do not like the idea of having any future wage increases removed from the legislature and putting them on autopilot. I don't like that idea. I think that is a terrible idea. Because I'm willing to discuss with you whether minimum wage needs to go up. But you're not going to get me to change my mind, because I honestly don't think there should be a minimum wage at all. Because all minimum wage does is tell people, I can legally pay you this little bit and you can either work here or not. And usually it's the other side of the aisle that likes to abuse the very same thing that they're railing against. So again, as we start getting ready to close things out, there are no statewide appellate retention votes because this is the primary. Those will come in November. But some counties do have local judges races. Oklahoma County District 7, Office 10 is contested. Susan C. Stallings versus Warren C. Plunk. Local items, Norman approved a hotel tax increase and a permanent homeless shelter. Broken Arrow, $400 million bond package has been approved but rejected a sales tax hike. Enola narrowly passed their school bond on one of their last elections. So for tomorrow night, we're going to be keeping an eye on the early returns. Early and mail-in votes usually hit in the first update after polls close. Polls close at 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. First numbers matter, but they're not the whole night. Second is the GOP governor map. Does Mazzei convert the Trump endorsement? I'm not sure if he will, especially with now that he's come out in favor of the whole Enola smelting plant thing. Does Drummond's AG record hold? I have to tell you, I have a mixed bag on Drummond as well. McCall's experience, does that produce enough trust? Does Keating pull in outsider votes? Does Merrick's pressure lane matter? We won't know the answer to those questions until tomorrow night. Third, Senate runoff math. Hearn can be far ahead and still need to clear 50+1, so they may or may not be headed to a runoff after the elections tomorrow. We will find out. Fourth, state question 32. Watch urban versus rural, Republican versus Democratic participation, and whether the minimum wage argument cuts across party lines. Fifth, as always, turnout for a primary is going to matter. A primary is not the electorate. It's the electorate that shows up. And primaries, for some reason, do not garner the attention of general elections. And to me, those are actually the more important ones, especially if you have a voice in the vote. I'm a libertarian, and they do their primaries a bit differently, so I don't really have a voice in the vote other than the state question. I'm definitely going to be going to vote on that. So, again, as we get ready to close things out, tomorrow is not about who yelled loudest. It is about who persuaded enough people to leave the house. Fill in the oval and put a little power back where it belongs. Oklahoma votes tomorrow. Washington, as usual, spins everything every day, and we will sort out the difference together. My name is Rick Robinson. This has been my show, and I guess we actually came in a little bit under with as many rants as I had. I was kind of surprised by that. But we'll be back Friday for this one. I'm off tomorrow, first of all, so I can go vote, and second of all, because I have a million other things that I have to do. So we'll be back with you guys Friday, Wednesday. Trying to rush it. So we'll be back Wednesday, and we'll kind of recap what happened on election night, see if there's been any other late-breaking stories. And again, keeping my powder dry as much as possible for now regarding the memorandum of understanding until I see the fine print, because we haven't seen it yet. All right. Now, one other little quick hit on the way out the door is this. For everybody who keeps trying to compare Donald Trump to Joe Biden, Donald Trump was up until 2 a.m. at the Freedom America 250 thing at the White House, and then headed straight to France to do the G7. Yeah. As a guy who works in the media, I liked things a little bit better under Biden, but not for what you think. Usually he was done by 11. There were lids called by 1, and I'd already done all my stories and everything that I needed to do for the day by about noon or so. It doesn't work with this guy. All right, so here's another little quick hit. The Obama Center is apparently in financial trouble already. So if you listen to Democrats, tell it the entire world is eagerly awaiting the grand opening of the Obama Presidential Center, which looks remarkably like a board cube shaped like a rectangle, which is kind of weird, on June 19th, but just days remaining until the opening. There are already some serious financial questions surrounding a safety net that would prevent taxpayers from picking up part of the tab. Could this be another, if you like your plan, you can keep it, broken promise? Funny how we mentioned that earlier today. So the $850 million Obama Presidential Center opens on Juneteenth. Be honest, is this the most beautiful building you've ever seen? And it has a video, and it looks like something the Borg would have made, but I don't have time to put it on the screen. The problem is the Obama Center Foundation has yet to put in place a promised $470 million safety net designed to prevent a public bailout, according to Fox News Digital, who reported the following: because of the absence of the safety net, multiple contractors and subcontractors claiming losses ranging from hundreds of thousands of dollars to millions on the project, with some alleging they remain locked in payment disputes and face financial ruin. In an interesting agreement with the city of Chicago, the foundation would create an endowment or cash reserve as part of a 99-year sweetheart deal to control all 19.3 acres of the section of Jackson Park the center sits on and is publicly owned for a one-time payment of just $10. $10 in 2021. When construction began on the center, the foundation deposited $1 million into the reserve fund, but since then, the balance has not changed much. As with most things associated with Democrats, the cost of the center kept ballooning. The original price tag was $300 million in 2017. The budget was revised to $500 million and again in 2021 to $700 million. While it is not an official total, the cost is now close to a whopping $850 million. The center has been privately funded by individuals, corporations, and other foundations. So, again, interesting little side note on the way out the door. The party who keeps claiming they're the fiscally responsible ones can't seem to do anything with money. But I'll let you guys ponder that on the way out. Have a great rest of your Monday, everybody. Thank you to everybody who hung out with us today, even the guys in chat that were trolling me on the YouTube channel. I know we were gone for a bit, but we're back now. And we'll see you on Wednesday. Actually, I guess I'll see you tomorrow night for Men Explained Poorly. But this show will be back Wednesday.
From red dirt roads to the Capitol steps, Rick's calling truth, no time for regrets. Fire in his voice, facts in his hand, talking sense to the heart of this land. It's the Rick Robinson Show, where the truth rides high. No spin, no script, just an eagle in the sky. From D.C. to Tulsa, he's calling it out. Mic in his hand, yeah, he's got the clout. Heartland Radio, raw and real. Tune in, speak up, and feel what we feel.
Say goodnight, Gracie.